I wouldn't want to take that away from you. Mike, how are you? Is Paulette over here fixing stuff?
I don't know where they are. I looked there to see where the lights would plug in.
Can everybody move back in? Who's going to be coming in?
I don't know what brought you to ask me, but...
How are you? Good.
Hey, how you doing? I thought you were on the water. I wasn't on the water. He got there just later. He got there before, and yeah, he wanted to stay.
Trying to be alone on this.
Who's Wally talking to? Oh, dancer. Okay, you can tell by that fuzzy hair.
Yeah, I got it.
Oh yeah, sure.
Hi Ron, happy birthday to you. Is that you?
You could
Where can we
Mark,
put
you
this?
can put that on the main table and you guys are welcome to sit there.
Hi Ron, happy birthday. Lauren says happy birthday too.
Some people distract me.
Oh, yeah, sure did. Happy birthday, Ron!
Hi, Dad. You gonna shoot me?
Yeah, go ahead. What do you want to say?
I want to say happy birthday. Thank you for being such a good father. And I wish you many, many more birthdays. That's it.
Quit smoking. Uh-oh.
Was that okay?
Okay, come here, no what? Do you want to change your change?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
This is a surprise birthday. If you really don't know anything about
Remember Ripley? Nothing. Nothing. I mean, no comparison.
Did you realize that she is the last one? Your spot is right up here.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Ron. Happy birthday to you.
The God Ronald States, there's somebody responsible. And I'll figure out who. Thank you for being here. Like a total trick. I did not. I did not suspect it. Great. Just where I like it. Let's get Ronald. Let's get Ronald. Mr. Lindner, this is your life.
Tom, can you tape for a while?
I gotta roll.
Well, can you tape for a while I eat?
I'll give you 5 minutes.
Okay. It's running right now.
All I gotta do is hold it, no
Yep.
pushing. What is it? Wally, the red light's okay?
We're here this evening to pay honor and tribute to a dear friend of ours, Mr. Ron Lindner. And in order to start the things that this evening off, I'd like to just bring to everybody's remembrance a couple of things that Ron has done so well. First off, Ron is an inventor. We'll all remember the Lindy rig, the dingo jig, just the concept of the in-fisherman. There's some other things that Ron invented that we don't always remember. Of course, Ron invented the two-piece rod. We remember that. We'll also remember some of Ron's inventions. He was close but never got there. There was one that he came up with, the tape duck. Someone else came up with the duct tape, and he was so close on it. And as people get up in years and they start, thinking about retirement, they also look at what other things can I use to occupy my time. People think of golf or tennis, and I know there's one thing that Ron has always wanted to learn how to do, but he's never just taken the time to learn how to do it. So now is the time that Ron can finally learn how to eat with a fork. This isn't just the basics. This is an advanced technique because it deals with mashed potatoes.
Okay.
But we have numbers of requests of people that want to pay. Mr. Rich Boris would like to pay honors to Ron Lindner.
Kim?
You get into a
Perfect
room
right
of people
here.
like this, you usually look at the crowd. When there's a wedding, everybody's happy and fired up, right? And awake, they're not quite as excited. But I look at this crowd, and this is one of those get even crowds.
Kim, she's got automatic focus. You got a voice
I
deal?
decided to come up here first for the simple reason that, although I've known of Ron for a long period of time, I haven't really known him that long, so I don't have as long a list of artillery to use on him. But I do have a couple of things I'd like to talk about. And the other thing is that I looked at some of the faces in this group, and I know enough of them to realize that if I had to follow any of their acts, I'd never make it. Because there's going to be some scary stories told tonight. But one of the things I wanted to talk about is the many titles that Ron has had. Now, fortunately, Al's not right in the room right now, so he knows the answer to this, and probably Jeff does too. But when the first In Fisherman magazine was published, does anybody know what Ron's title was? Publisher. Right over here. What's his title now?
Publisher Emeritus.
Oh, right. Okay. Well, there's one title that he's had that's probably not publicly well known. And when I talked to Dolores about this, she said, I'm not so certain this is really good to mention in public. But I thought, well, it's such a good term and it's so descriptive, I thought I should share it with you. Although I never really envisioned in this short period of time that I've known Ron that he was a stud muffin. I saw Al a little bit earlier, and I mentioned that to him, and he said, wait a minute, I grew up with him. Stud muffin? And of course, Dawn is sitting there right now going, my dad's a stud muffin? Gee, I thought all Mom and Dad did was hold hands. Of course, Jim gets to relax here, but he's not filming tonight. He's stuck out with his brother, right? But he's probably thinking through his mind of the number of times he's been out filming, what, 50 days a year probably? And he's thinking to himself, wait a minute, there's a lot of terms that come to mind when I think of my dad. But I'm not so certain stud muffin is it. But I think there's one incident that probably confirms that that title is one of the more appropriate ones for him. And this was shared back in Fond du Lac. We were commiserating about a few stories back in time. And Ron was posed the question of how he and Dolores happened to get married. And at that point in time, Ron said, he looked at me in the eye and he said,
I'll be back. I'm gonna go grab that
well,
girl. I'm supposed to go out on the
she
date
begged
with.
me to marry her. True story.
Now we'll get dirty.
That banter went on about for 5 minutes when we were talking this back and forth, denial and confirmation. But one title you probably are not aware of is that Ron, for a number of years, has been director of security over at Fish. Really? Now, he's kept this kind of a low-profile job. In fact, it's self-appointed, although some crowds have said it's self-anointed. But he got this title because of the fact that he was really concerned about the staff opening some type of a booby trap someday that's mailed in by some maybe fishing groupie, right? Anytime, this is the procedure that kind of goes through this procedure of being the director of security. Anytime he gets a box that comes in the mailroom that's anywhere from this size to a little bit larger, and especially if that box is marked personal and confidential, Al Lindner, Dan Sura, Ron quickly takes it up to his office and he puts it on his desk. Closes the door, and then he goes through a procedure to determine if this is a booby trap or a bomb of some type. Now, he's told me on several occasions, when you shake this box, if it makes the sound of like a willow leaf blade or a Colorado blade, that could be a device that's been manufactured in Sicily, imported by way of New Jersey. It's all the way in here, and it's known as the infamous spinnerbait pipe bomb. These are especially dangerous. There's also another word, if you shake the box and it sounds like a hunk of lead or a rock maybe, that comes from the Amazon thruway of Miami, and that's a piranha jig. Those are very dangerous. And then lastly, you can run into something with the sound of treble hooks, and that's usually a nuclear crankbait. In every one of these instances, what Ron has done is he's developed the diffusing mechanism. What you have to do is you have to take this bait and immerse it in water several times. And over the years, he's perfected a technique that basically is you tie it on monofilament and you use a rod and a reel and you work this lure for about 3 months. And then you give it to whoever the intended party was in the first place. Now, this has saved, obviously, a lot of lives. I mean, if you look around the room, Sir is still here, right? He's never been a victim of any kind of a pipe bomb that's gotten through the mail whatsoever. So it's been a very, very effective technique, and as a matter of fact, it's added a lot to the scientific community because Carl Sagan called me up when he found out about this, and he wanted to say he really wanted to be here, but he wanted to thank Ron for saving millions upon millions upon millions of hours of scientific research, because he's being an astronomer. Ron has given him a perfect term of watching boxes go into Ron's office. The door closes, the door opens, it's gone. So now astronomy has the term black hole. I got something, I think, there's a brown paper bag, probably back over there if I could have it for a moment. I'd like to have Ron come up and get this. I think you need to have this for the rest of the evening, considering some of the tales that, well, we'll pass it back to you.
She did say, please marry me, honestly. I just want to get that straight.
Yeah, at least your parents should have had the decency, like with your brother, to have you born in December when I had some wrapping paper left over, but since I didn't, I picked the next best thing that I have a lot of, and that's fishing magazine covers. I've got some over here. There's a Fishing Facts magazine, anybody ever heard of that one? And then we have Bass and Magazine, Bassmaster, and then on the bottom of this box, now, this is merely by coincidence when I wrapped it. It has nothing to do with anything else. It's not premeditated, but on the bottom of the box, it's the cover from the Cabela's magazine. And I'd like you to open that. You want to shake it to make sure it's all right? There's nothing in there. Should be able to open right on the top.
Don't give anything sharp. Thanks, I'll be watching. BHC.
What does BHC possibly stand for? What color is the hat?
Black.
No, you don't have to.
You got no explain, no explanation.
Really, earlier tonight I asked Ron if he was enjoying himself, and he said yes, and that's the only thing I'm enjoying. Some time ago, Ron and I got talking about creeping age. We got talking about how tough it is to stay in shape, with bad backs, and growing a little bit of a tummy, and carrying on about the whole subject. And Ron's got a lot more discipline than I do. And about 3 weeks ago, he came into my office and he said, "That's it. I'm going on a diet." And so far, he's lost 21 days. You all probably know that Ron comes from Chicago. What you probably don't know is that going way back, Ron was an early protege of Mayor Daley. Of course, Daley was a parole officer at the time. You can sum up Ron's business career in one word: lucky. We keep sending him south every winter to find new TV talent, and they keep sending him back. Ron's very astute, though. He knows exactly what the TV public wants. And one of these days, he's going to give it to them. By now, you probably already know that Ron's rich, too. But when he first started out, he was so flat you could play him on a big Proa. Rags to riches story. For me, I think I'm going the other way. Especially if I keep this up. The other day I heard Ron telling, my office is right next to Ron's, so, and Ron really doesn't whisper. I heard it, Dolores was in the office that day, and I heard him tell Dolores that, you know, he says male judgment is superior to female judgment. And Dolores says, you know something, honey? She said, you're right. You married me, and I married you. You know, I find it very hard to forget that Ron is one of the world's foremost, probably the foremost authority on fishing today. And you'd find it hard to forget, too, if he made you write it on the blackboard 500 times before he named the CEO. We all have to remember something, that Ron's a self-made man, and I'm glad he's willing to take the bang for it. Tammy's the one that told me to say this, by the way. Matter of fact, Tammy put me up to all of it. Thanks a lot, Tammy. I'm dying and Ron's crying. That's what I said. The other day, again, Al was in Ron's office the other day, and sometimes, as I mentioned, he forgets that the walls are thin over there. And he says, you know, he said, that Lagarde, He's gonna make an unknown someday. Don't get me wrong, Ron, I like you. I have no taste, but I like you. Hey, I'm a Norwegian, what can I say? No matter what though, Ron, no matter what any of the people here say, no matter what I might say, you got my vote. Of course, I voted for Goldwater. Dukakis. Thank you, Ron. Thank you for building a wonderful company. You're respected, you're admired, and we love you. Happy birthday.
All the detrimental things came from Canada.
You know, these are the 90s, and we have to be politically correct, so when we put together the guest list, we made sure that we had an equal number of males and females. We also made sure that all the sexual preferences were represented here. And then we just said, we need a bald guy, we need a bald guy. We got Stewart. Daryl Christensen.
You want to be right in the middle, I
Tall
want.
or what?
Huh? No, you can't really go around it. I want
This is
go for it.
this is great. I just spent a week or so in Bay-de-Noc with School of Guard, and we spent several nights telling stories, and I can't wait till we roll School of Guard. Because I got some great stories. But anyway, it's happy birthday, Ron. It's good to see you. Al Lindner told me that I could come only if I had some Ronald stories, so I spent the last 4 or 5 days after fishing with Al, thinking of some Ronald stories and trying to make some up. And on my drive home, you know, after you spend 2 days on the water with Al Lindner, and when you're over 45 years old, you know how important fiber is, you know, that some of those guys. And Chuckles is fiber to Al Lindner. These little packages of candies, it's not only fiber, it's breakfast, lunch. So I had plenty of time on my way home to think about it, and of course, once I got home, I had plenty of time sitting around thinking about these stories, but I really only have a couple of short ones. And one is Steve Quinn was talking about how Ron drives a boat. You know, I had a real great opportunity to ride with Ron one day going down the canal out to Leech Lake through the rice paddy. If any of you guys have fished there, you know what I'm talking about. It's about as wide as the stage, and he's going 70 miles an hour. I'm kind of hanging on. I've never been in a boat with Ron Lindner before, but I had a lot of warning from Dan Sur and some of the other people who've been fishing. And I knew there was something real suspicious anyway that day, because there was 40 guys there, and Ron was kind of standing around the parking lot like this, and I came rushing out of the cabin, and I was the only guy left. So. That's what happened. I got stuck. I thought, man, this is great. I'm going to fish with a legendary angler. I mean, you know, what could be greater than this? And so we're going through this rice paddy 70 miles an hour, and when we got out to the lake, I said to Ron, I said, what happens if you meet somebody? And he says, oh, didn't you see all those little trails going through the rice? He said, that's where the boats go. So, and I'm sure some of those were probably his. The other story I have was last year at the PWD Championship. Things were going really great, pre-fishing like they usually do for me, and then it always falls apart. And I was in the tournament, and my press guys every day were weighing big fish, really nice big fish, except for the last day when Roach's guy beat my press guy. I think Roach got the fish. But anyway, he had a 10-pounder, I had a 9-pounder, so every day our press guys had these big fish. So a lot of people were kind of thinking, well, the girl's going to win this tournament. And I was pretty hyped up and excited and all this stuff. And finally we had the meeting, got done with that. Went back to the motel. I told my wife, I said, I'm not gonna let this get to me. I said, I know I got a chance to win this. I'm just gonna relax. I'm gonna shut my eyes. I'm gonna just take it real cool and just go fishing. So I lay down on the bed and shut my eyes, and I was half asleep, and all of a sudden, bam, 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 on the motel door, and I go, it's Mike McClellan trying to pump me for information. First thing I thought, and he goes, Daryl, are you in there? I go, yeah. He says, this is Ron, open the door. So I open the door, and Ron comes charging in, and he goes, you can win this tournament, just don't get excited. If you get nervous, you blow the whole thing, don't get excited. Just calm down, take it easy. Just go fishing. Up the door he went. And my wife looks at me, she goes, what was that? Seriously, that really happened, by the way, but not quite so dramatically, but Ron, you don't know how much I appreciated that. They have a legendary angler, somebody who, I grew up learning to fish from In Fisherman, the magazine, the TV show, and Ron and Al and everybody involved, and that really meant a lot to me. I'll never forget that Ron would take the time out to come and wake me up out of a nice deep sleep. It encouraged me that way, and it was a great encouragement, and I did have a really great day the next day and continue, but I really appreciate that, and I really appreciate other things that and impacts that Ron and Al Lindner have had on my life. Thank you, Ron. I almost forgot. Everybody's got a birthday card for Ron. I was going to throw it over there, but I figured instead I read it to you because it was so dear to me when I got it. Little angels on the front.
It's rolling
The day
right
you were
now.
born, the trumpet sounded, the heavenly angels burst into song, and a voice from on high was heard saying, "Look out below!"
Speaking of fishing partners, the next speaker here, insured by Lloyd's of London, has done more trips with Ron in his most recent days than anybody, Bob Hansen.
Laura, have you seen my rattle trap? I have spent quite a few hours, quite a few miles with my beloved partner in crime. And quite frankly, I really don't know what you folks are talking about. We get along fine. When I first started to fish the PWT, or thinking about it, I talked to Ronald and asked him his advice, and he assured me that he'd help me in any way he could. And I was going through the deal, and I knew I wasn't going to finish up top. There was no visions of grandeur. I was looking down through the things that you could win, and I seen this Sharp Angler Award. I mentioned it, and Ron says, "Don't even think about it. Guys like you and I don't belong in that category. You're not going to win a dime." So I threw that one out and went fishing. One thing that comes to mind is when Ron and I went to Florida. Great trip. Stopped down and seen Tom. I think it was Jim, myself, and Ron streaming down this river, and we seen this cut in the rushes. They're about that wide. Ron says, "Jimmy, stop, 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 stop." Jim looked, he thought he was going to hit a tree or something. He stopped. He says, "What?" "I think you can make it in there," he says. "Trim her up real high high, and if you keep it on plane, you can make it in there. Jimmy looks at me, and we're kind of thinking, yeah, possible. You know, it did look really good. It's a nice day. So, whammo, he hits it, and all of a sudden we're starting to get a little higher. Start slowing down, almost to a dead stop, turn around and look, and here is a wall of mud behind us. Just a sheer wall. After the motor shut down, it dropped. There we were, high and dry. Didn't know what we were going to do. Jimmy and I were going to get out of the boat. It was nice and quiet. We were just thinking about getting out of the boat, and all of a sudden the rushes started parting, and there was alligators and snakes going everywhere. Ron goes, "Stay in the boat." We worked that motor to death trying to get it out, and we were doing pretty good. Jimmy and I got an anchor and threw it behind the boat. All three of us would pull. A long story short, we finally got out. It must have been an hour and a half, 2 hours, Jim. Got out to the mouth of the river, close to it. And we were trying to get the anchor out. Ron says, "That's it," takes his knife and goes, "Boom, don't need the anchor that bad. That anchor is still in that swamp as far as I don't know anybody will go." One other thing, Ron knows this story, but I gotta tell you what happened. We were, I guess I don't remember where, it might have been the same trip. Getting ready to get out of the boat, and Ron says, "Bob, get me my purse." I said, "No. Ain't gonna do it." This was the Jeffrey Dahmer time. "Ronald," I said, "there's a guy in Milwaukee eating body parts and putting them in his freezer. My son's got an earring, and now my hero wants me to pass him his purse? No way." Ronald, I know this is the roast and everything else, but I don't believe there's a man alive in this world that I respect and love more than you.
Amen.
It's not Gary's turn yet, but one time Gary and I are fishing in Kansas or Missouri, and I had to visit the restroom. So Gary says, "Let me pull the boat up to this little sandbank, jump out, run in the woods." So I jump out, and it was quicksand. Up to the crotch, I lost my shoes. Thank you, Gary. Ron is experiencing great success in his life. God has blessed him, and people around him are getting blessed. One of the biggest people around that's getting blessed is his boat rigger, Jim Wentworth.
I'll tell ya, we don't call him old El Destructo for nothing. One thing we can count up there at job security. Ron hits a tournament, we know that boat's coming back in. I'll tell you what, he's an outstanding man. I've known this man, I think, since 1968. I love him a whole bunch. I have the deepest respect for this man, and I wouldn't trade him for anybody. He's a very special person. He's a great man in the community, and he's got all my respect and all my love. Thank you, Ron Lindner.
Amen.
Thank you.
I remember times when I moved up here young, lived with them. Ron would come home, "Dolores, the boat's broke." Is Bays here?
He's coming in late.
Okay.
Maybe.
KO.
Well, this is really fun hearing all these stories, and it makes me realize lots more that I could have told tonight. But it also makes me realize that I lived with Ron Lindner for about, 3 years, Dawn? When we were living together, Dawn is so much like her dad. I mean, I can count boat trips with Dawn where we did the very same thing. It's like, did you teach her how to do this or what? Ron and I share the same birthday, which is September 1st, not today. And he's a very sharing person. And in the time that I worked at Inn Fisherman, Ron gave me a beautifully carved loon, and he gave me a wonderful print. And he also gave me a gift when I first started there that was just overwhelming. Why are you laughing? It was so overwhelming to me. It knocked my socks off, and I screamed. I mean, I screamed so loud that Marilyn, who was down in the advertising department, heard me, and I was up where Matt Straw is now, or was when I was there last. I don't know where he is nowadays, but it was just like, I still to this day, I can't believe he gave it to me. It's like, well, we don't have to go into such detail. That might have happened. But this gift is just, Ron, I'll never forget it, and you know, the more I think about it, I can't accept it. It's like, I just can't. I mean, I try, and I just think this is just too much. So I have to give this back to you, but what I ask that you do is wait till September 1st to open it. Can you do that?
Or maybe, should we open it now or wait?
Or do you want to turn it into a science project?
Did you tell them what it was, the gift?
Do you know what it was?
I remember what it was.
I think we should wait till September 1st.
Okay.
But Ron, I really missed working with you, and I enjoyed working for you so much, and you were really a mentor to me. And no, I really don't miss working for you, because now I have Jeff Zernoff to work for. He is just as much as a practical joker. Thanks. Happy birthday.
Open it up, Ron. No. It's your favorite flavor. Open it up. Come on.
Everybody go like this.
May I have it? May I?
Don't open it, it really stinks, she said.
No, it doesn't.
No, it's good.
Hold it there and do it. Oh. Does stink.
Delora, come over here, buddy. How do I open this, Karen?
Carefully.
It could be a bomb.
Do you remember, Ronald? You don't remember.
What?
Don't tip it. Gotta keep it up, she said. Is this how he is at Christmas?
One side.
It opens right at the bottom. Upside down.
Oh, I see.
It's upside down.
Go for it, Ron.
Okay, now flip it back right side up.
What is it?
Ron, remember, I've had it for 4 years.
That tarantula you gave her? Oh, it is. She did. It's the same one. This is what I put on Karen, except it was alive. And I put it on the box with an open end with a bow on it. She picked the box up and it jumped on her.
But Ron, 2 days ago, this thing was alive. I had it in my basement. I looked all over.
Oh.
Ron, wipe your hands off. This is an intermission here.
He was holding on to it too tight.
Go there before we release Ron.
I don't know how you do it. I could not, a total trick. Total trick.
Get everybody a little bit.
Happy birthday, Ron.
That was hilarious, that roast.
Yeah.
Shame on you.
What are you doing, Dolores?
What are you doing with that thing, dear? Hi, sweetheart. I'm not as photogenic as my
Every Tuesday from 7 to 8 o'clock.
Thank you, Chris. That was very nice. You all are welcome to get up and say something.
Yeah, hi. Hi, Diane. How are you?
How you doing, Don? You're looking very good.
Get a close-up to see where I burned myself sunlight.
Oh, you mean in the sun? Oh my goodness.
You'll really be feeling wrong.
I'm glad you came. Good. Hi, Carol. I'm so glad you came. Gary, I'm so glad you came. Hi.
Just my favorite funniest home movie.
Yeah. Hi, Scott.
Hi, Dolores.
Hi, Harp.
Is he having a good time?
I think he's having a good time. Did you go give him a kiss?
No, not yet.
Oh, okay.
You're kidding.
How you doing, kiddo? Hello.
Feed him your face.
We have lunch sometime from Ron.
Huh?
Dolores.
Hi.
You met my wife? Did Ron make an exit?
No.
Still there?
I did not want to go. Just a minute. Raised our kids there. I'm back here until. Hi, Doris.
Where have you been?
I've been home. Where have you been?
How do you, Dolores? That's me.
Give her a kiss.
Why not?
I don't know. You want to say something?
Happy birthday.
You gotta say it again now I'm in focus.
Happy
Okay.
birthday.
Let me talk to this lady.
Dolores. Yeah, for sure.
But he ain't
I believe that.
he ain't ripping deep
Well, we
rocks.
We know.
but they're starting
Okay,
again. They need
okay.
you in there.
Mr. Tom Kinsley.
How you doing there? God bless you. You ain't gonna tell the story of how you and I met.
Maybe save that for another. Haven't been a good friend of Ron's for 25 years. We met in about 1970. I've had some very close contacts with Ron. Matter of fact, I kissed him on the cheek. I love him like a brother. There's a verse in the Bible that says there is one who sticketh closer than a brother, and I would say that's Ron. But having these close contacts with him, I didn't think anything of him until tonight. When I saw Bob Hansen. It could be contagious. It's scary if you stop and think about it. I'm telling you, people, stay away from it. We go back quite a way, 25 years. Yep. about 25 years. And when we got to be friends, we started exploring our common interests and our common bonds. And turns out we both came from Chicago. We were raised in the near northwest side. And Ron's been called a lot of things tonight. One of the things I haven't heard anybody call him was a distractor. He and I both were distractors. We did not know each other in Chicago, but we belonged to gangs. You had to belong to a gang to survive. And on Saturday mornings, we'd meet up in a park, in a city park, and meet with the guys and decide what we're going to do today. And oddly enough, almost every Saturday, we decided we'd go to a movie in the afternoon. And so off we would go into a strange neighborhood. I would go into a strange neighborhood with my gang. Ron probably went into my neighborhood. Who knows, you know? And we'd go down the alleys. We'd look in garbage cans for pop bottles that had a penny deposit on them. And if we couldn't find any of those, we'd hop the fence. We'd steal a milk bottle that they had set out for tomorrow morning's pickup. When we got 11 of them, over we go to the local grocery store. And I don't know if you guys, any of you are this old, but in those days, cookies and candies, they came in bulk, boxes, not packaged like we have today. And they'd cut open the top of the box. They'd have a lid that they would put on the box that had a flap on top that you could look through the window and see what was in these boxes. So the distractor, we would go in, we'd collect our 11 cents for the 11 bottles that we had picked up, and the distractor would do something that would prompt the store owner to grab him by the scuff of the neck and the seat of the pants and out the door and throw him in the street. That was me. While the owner is doing this, the other guys are filling their pockets with cookies and candy. So then out we go down to the local theater, the Manor Theater or the Rockney or one of those, and Hopalong Cassidy would be playing, and the 139th chapter of Terry and the Pirates, and the distractor would take the 11 cents and go in and buy a ticket and go on in. Up in the balcony I'd go, and the movie would start, the house lights go down, and I go over and open the fire escape door, and who do you suppose is on the fire escape? The other 10 guys, right? So that was something we had in common. Well, anyways, Ryan called me up one night, middle of the night, 1974, I think it was. He's over in Door County. I'm snug in my bed in Brainerd here. It's early April. I didn't know this, but Ron had already called all of his friends that were in their right minds, and they'd all turned him down. He said, come on over and you'll get some browns, some big browns. So, not fitting the category of the rest of his friends, I made my way over there, met Ron, and we put on some snowmobile suits, took his 18-foot Lund, went over to Sister Bay, put the boat in, threaded our way through ice floes that were twice, 5 times, 10 times as large as the boat, out into Green Bay. And I thought it was kind of funny when we put the boat in that there wasn't any other cars or rigs in the parking lot there. But, you know, I thought maybe we were fishing a little early or something like that. And we went out in the Green Bay and fished all day. And I mean, we caught browns. We had 2 limits of big browns. And so I thought, you know, no, probably go back home and it's warm again, right? No, we're going to keep on fishing and try all kinds of different lures and break all kinds of lines. And I thought that this Ron was just testing lures and such as that. No, he wasn't. Ron was waiting until the wind turned and shifted from the west. That's what Ron was waiting for. And when the wind shifted from the west, what do you think it did with all those ice floes? Pushed them all into the harbor, where the boat goes out. It comes dark, Ron said, we're going in. In we go, we get over there, all this ice. I mean, a 1/4 mile of ice between us and the shore. So Ron says, don't worry, I know the way, and then he goes through this one path. Oh, that wasn't it, we're back out. 10 times we do this. I know the way, I know the way. Finally, he lost his patience. Can you imagine this? How would you like to have been there, Bob? Huh? But he lost his patience. And he turned his 16-foot Lund into an icebreaker. And he got us out.
It's okay, that's okay.
Yeah, I don't know if any of you have ever seen a 16-foot Lund that was used for an icebreaker, but it's not a pretty sight. No, not pretty at all. So we hooked up the boat to the trailer, put it on the trailer. Ron gets in, starts up the car. I said, turn the heater on, Ron. The car dies right there. We're out of gas. So, in the dark, take a 6-gallon can. My poor little hands for a funnel, and we pour gas out of a 6-gallon can into a side. Can you believe this? Ron says, you're not holding your hands right.
The story gets worse when we get back to the motel.
This is just the beginning. So we got enough gas to get on the road and up and down the road and in the main road in Door County looking for a gas station. No gas stations in April there. There's nothing there except one motel, which he was staying in. Everything else is closed. And finally we find this gas station which is closed. And Ron banging on the doors and rooting around. Finally somebody comes out to find out. We get the owner from his supper table, come down and sell Ron some gas. And Ron asked him, he says, you know, how come you close early? The guy says, I close in October. So we get the gas, and then we're going back to the motel. Park in front of it, in we go. Ron takes up residency in the bed in front of the television. And me being a newcomer to these fishing trips, they what do we do with the fish, Ron? Ron says, clean them. You know, did you ever take medieval history in high school? Remember the baronies and the barons, and they had their serfs? He adds new dimension to the relationship. It really does. Clean them, he says. So I said, okay, well, where am I going to clean them, Ron? He says, go right across the road. There's Lake Green Bay, and there's a little dock down there. You can go down there and clean them. So I take them down there with a fillet knife, and browns have a tremendous amount of blood in them. They are really a bloody fish.
And greasy.
And greasy, yeah. So I'm on the shore there, pitch dark now, and I'm cleaning fish. I'm just going to gut them and dump the stuff out and wash them out. I get done with the first one, and I take my pilot's pen light out and see how I'm doing, and I find out that all of that blood is not the browns. some of it was mine. So I said, enough of this. I'm going to take these back in. We're going to clean them up in the motel room. So I open the motel room door. Ron's still in residency. And I sneak right into the bathroom, okay, and pull the door shut behind, grab all the newspapers first, and go in there. And I start cleaning the fish in the bathtub. All of a sudden comes a knock on the door. I said, what do you want, Ron? He says, I want to come in. I said, no, you can't come in. I'm indisposed. He said, well, hurry up. And he goes back and watches TV, some wife and some more fish. Pretty soon, the knock is more insistent, and the voice is louder. Incidentally, when I went in, I noticed that the office was the next room to ours. You know, these motels, how they're built. The office was right next door to our room, and the walls were like paper. So I said, Ron, be quiet, I'll be out right away. What are you doing in there? What are you doing in there? I said, I told you, are you cleaning fish in there in that bathroom? Ron, I finally give up. I opened the door. I said, Ron, will you be quiet with the guy that can't clean fish in the bathroom in a motel? What's the matter with you? Blah, 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 blah. just laying it on me. Yeah. So I get the fish clean and wrap them up in paper, take them out, put them in the boat. Ron goes in, take a shower. What do you think he does? He plugs up the bathtub. You plugged up the bathtub with the fish. Go get me a plunger. Go get me a plunger. So I pat my hand and go over and knock on the door and ask the guy if he'd give me the plunger. He said, boy, he was giving us some stuff that day. It was really tough. Well, that's enough of that. Ron, I love you like a brother. I understand, I've heard it said from someone in your family that just recently that there's a new Ron. Is that right?
Wow.
Anybody else heard this? There's a new Ron?
Well, you'd have to ask her. She's the expert on the subject over here.
Is there a new Ron recently?
There's a little of the old, but a lot of the new.
Why? She's been trained to be a 90s kind of
kind of guy.
I'm here to...
Sensitive, caring, all those things.
Was he the perfect candidate? Let's hear a vote.
I'm here to tell you that I haven't been through what Dolores has been through, but I've been through a few of these new Rons, and the most recent one is the best. I love it. I have two presents for you, Ron. One is a piece of article of fishing tackle from the past. It could be a veritable treasure. It's original
Yes, in
Basserino.
Basserino. Yes, it is.
Okay?
I'm going to take this to Shelby with me.
That'll remind you of a lot of your successes in the 20th century. This fishing device has not yet been seen by anyone, Ron. And I'm giving it to you, and I hope that you can go open the doors of the 21st century, break down walls of fishing that have never been breached before with this article. See? It's catchy.
One.
Ron's favorite trick, you know, rabbit It was interesting when Tom was telling the story about fishing Bailey's Harbor in 1974. I was there in 1973 with Al and Ron. And this is when they had their initial offering from Rayovac to buy Lindy Little Joe. And Al and Ron back then didn't know how to get along necessarily. And Al and Ron and I and a guy, Tippy Tyree, were fishing on the breakwaters out there. Ron comes, and Ron and Al had been arguing. So we left them at the motel. Ron walks 3 miles from the motel to Bailey's Harbor Yacht Club, yells some blah, blah, blah. Al picks up all the rods and throws them in the water. It's 15 foot deep off of these breakwaters. Ron walks home. So Tippy Tyree and I are staying in a room. Teddy Capra was there, and Al and Ron start arguing. And back then, I mean, they'd have arguments at the old Lindy building. Chris would remember, and we'd yell out, "Don't hit him in the face, we're filming!"
They'd be duking it out. They'd be rolling in the poison ivy. You know,
Ron, don't hit him in none. So you'd see TV shows, you can only get Al's left side. But they go at it and they're arguing about something in this acquisition. Everything, the windows were broken, every chair, the people in the room next to them, in the middle of the night, they check out, they say, "I don't know what's going on, but we've heard enough of Rayovac and Nick and this, we're out of here." So I've been there.
By the way, this thing here, Karen used to fall for this once a weekend.
You almost did.
Ron Christopherson.
No, I won't say everything. I just want to relate one thing that happened back in probably 69 or 70. I don't know, maybe Ron can...
Those are dangerous years for
Well,
even you.
this is not a black hat thing. Gary was with us, and we were down in Alma, Wisconsin. That was the dog training day. But anyway, we were filming, I think it was the first film that Lindy was gonna really do.
Right.
And Ron had hired this cameraman to come in and do the filming. At that time, it was $60 an hour, which was a lot of money. And he was really nervous in the morning, and I think Al and Gary and I were fishing together. And we were gonna do some filming, and Ron was just nervous, and he was running around out there. No, you gotta do this, you gotta do that, you gotta get over here, get this, get that. Now make sure you have everything, get everything, everybody ready, let's go, okay. Down to the river we go, the boats are in. We're starting to catch fish, and the camera's there. Ron is gonna run the camera boat, of course. He wants to make sure the cameraman gets there. So we're fishing away, and all of a sudden, we hear, help! And we look up, and the camera boat is floating downriver.
An iceberg.
We're out of gas! He forgot to put gas in the camera boat. He was telling everybody else to put gas in, and he's sitting there screaming. So then we had to go back, and I can relate to the ice flows, because they opened up a lock in March, and the ice came through, and it was just filtering downstream, or downriver, and we were trying to fight back. But that's just one little thing. And I could sit here all night, and I'm sure there's quite a few more that want to talk. So, Ron, happy birthday, and it's been a real trip.
Not forgetting that bad acid from Woodstock, though. Ron, we did take you to nice accommodations. The Alma Hotel over there, I mean, the best.
Only the best of places.
Oh, the best of places.
But then, we're sitting in this nice place that he's talking about. We're sitting in there at noon, having lunch, and Gary comes up, and he said, "Did you know I was a dog trainer?" Oh yeah, right, you're a dog trainer. Just watch it. Here, Rover. Like this little Springer Spaniel comes running around the corner like this, comes running up and jumps in the stool next to Gary, and Gary pours him some beer. It's a true story. And the dog starts to lap up this beer, and then Gary looks over and he says, "Get your bone, Rover." The dog gets out and runs around, goes over and picks up this big plastic bone, runs back up, comes up to the bar, sits down, puts the bone on the table, on the bar. I look over and Gary said, "Well," he says, "it's easy," he said, "to train dogs." Well, come to find out, the night before, I think you and Ron were in there. And this lady had showed how this dog had worked, so he kind of passed it off on us. But this is really a nice place. If anything fell on the floor, you'd leave it.
I remember one time in Hayward with Ron, and we had one of these. Back then, he had the gray Chevrolet station wagon, 104,000 miles, back into the ramp, drive the boat up, and it's a steep ramp. So as soon as we get back in, try to start the car, all the gas had gone away from. So in the boat, get the 5-gallon. I didn't use my hands. We had a newspaper poured in. So Ron was he was starting to lose patience. He hits the gas, drives away, and the boat falls off the trailer right on the ramp. David Ducinin.
Well, I don't have any real fishing stories, but I do have a little bit of business prowess that I've learned from Ronald at a very early age. I'm 26 now, 27, 26, something like that. And when I was 6 years old, Ronald taught me a very, very important lesson when it comes to business, and that's be tough. You've got to sink or swim. And so at the tender age of 6, Ron picked me up and threw me into the deep end of a swimming pool and said, "Swim." And I've been struggling just about ever since. But that's really the only story that I've got. And it's left an indelible mark on me. I'm sure he's touched us all in a lot of ways, but I don't have a fear of water anymore. But that's one thing I will never forget. Happy birthday, Ron.
Thank you.
One of my favorite times, one of the very first governor's openers I went on with Al and Ron, we're going to Wilmer, Minnesota, and on the way there, Minnesota governors, Al and Ron pull into Burnell's and get a flat on nightcrawlers, throw them in the back of the station wagon. We're driving to the motel, or to the Holiday Inn at that time, Wilmer Motel, fish that night, we go to bed, and the next morning we wake up. And Al forgot that night crawlers are called that because they crawl at night. Okay? And here was a flat of 500 night crawlers that had evacuated this little styrofoam cooler. Well, okay, we'll just go buy some more, okay? So, and it turned out to be one of those governor's openers that was at like 80 or 90 degrees. Windows up, night crawlers looking for things underneath carpet, and so after the first day they come back and they open up the doors of his car, and I was following him back to the motel. Ron had the door open, he's vomiting. Al had the window open, and he's driving. You have to learn, night crawler means they crawl at night.
I was going to get a couple shots tonight too.
If there is a true saint, it is Marge for putting up with them all these years. And Marge, would you come and talk?
Here.
Oh, there she is.
Oh, this is so much fun. He's such a good person to roast, isn't he? Worth didn't tell a few more little stories. It would have made mine so much more interesting. But anyway, we had file cards, everything we could think of to keep this equipment in order. And so here everybody was scurrying around here and there, getting things ready. You know, they had to get on the road by opening day and just boom, boom, boom. It was really going. And we were with our little file cards writing down this boat goes with this motor and this whatever goes with something else. Then, after the spring ritual settled down and we waved our heroes off to the lake, there came the time when we had to sell this equipment. Okay, now no problem, really, you know, because here we had it all written down on our little cards. You dreamers. John Smith over in Washington got this outfit. Tom Jones over here got a different outfit. First thing you know, the phone rang. I can't license this boat. What? He said, I've been everywhere I can think of. They just won't give me a license for my boat. Okay, then we were very perplexed because here everything was written down and, you know, it was perfectly logical the way things were kept. Then we'd hear from another guy. Something's wrong with this boat. Come to find out, our innovative Ron, now I really shouldn't blame him entirely, but after all, he is the oldest one, right? So I believe he taught every one of those men everything he knows about switching licenses on the trailers. You wouldn't believe the messes we've had trying to straighten out that equipment because these guys would go out and something would be wrong with this particular trailer. No problem, we'll just take the license plate and put it on another one. That story could go on and on, but I want to tell you one other little thing that really got Ron in trouble one time. This was a long time ago, and as we pointed out before, he is so good at tricks. And he had a little matchbook trick he was going to show one of the girls. So got this out and very dramatically, you know, did all of his little things. We were all huddled around to see what was going to happen. He struck the match, and Nancy's hair caught on fire. That really made us scramble. That was the days of heavy hairspray. I love you too, Ron.
The title of this next Ronald Roast reservation is When It Rains, It Pours. So Mr. Mike Simpson.
Well, I've only known Ron for, I guess, 8.5, maybe 9 years. I started working for Fisherman back in 1986. And so I don't know Ron as long as a lot of you folks do. but I believe I learned the spirit of Ron over the last 8.5 years or so. And in my somewhat limited filming experiences with Ron, a number of those were on the Great Lakes. And for those, you can probably relate to this, but when something goes wrong with Ron out, they generally go from bad to worse. You know, it's not usually the other way, it's from bad to worse. And one time, Danny Lindner, when he was a lot littler, and I were out filming with Ron on the Great Lakes, and it seems to me it was kind of a tough time. We're trying to get a salmon piece, and we're kind of struggling, you know, working through the day to get this salmon piece. And, you know, it was getting late, and, you know, the time was starting to wear on us all. And finally, we get on a big fish, and probably a 30-pound king. That's what you need to do a good salmon piece. And Ron grabs a rod and brings it back and hits another rod and tangles it up in a crankbait over there. And Ron, thereupon, he mournfully exclaimed, "It's starting." like there was some, you know, invisible force. So, for some reason, that always stuck in my mind. Sally and I, you know, when something goes wrong around the house, sometimes we'll say, "It's starting." But that's in memory of you. And by the way, all the guys at the Focus Club say happy birthday to you, too. Those are good memories, and I hope we have a few more of them in the future.
The next person is a good friend of everybody's. Paul Grau has some presentations for.
By the way, my brother probably has nothing to say, right?
Your brother's right here.
He's batting cleanup.
Hi, Paul.
Hi, Ron. I can't believe I'm standing here.
You're a tender-hearted guy. I know that.
This is going to be very gentle. It's really a pleasure to be here. I think it was 1980, around 82 or 83 when we met, and it was a fabulous meeting. And we vowed that nothing would ever change this, and it's grown extremely deep. I won't tell you the whole thing now, but they say pictures are worth 1,000 words. And when I'm all done, I know Ron will want to have these pictures. So, well, a matter of fact, a week ago yesterday, I was in the depths of China, and Joanna said to me, she said, she sent a message. And she said, you know, there's going to be a barbecue. And I was starving to death. I want to tell you the feeling I got. See my watch hanging on my wrist? I was starving. And I'm telling you. And I couldn't get home quick enough. There was a typhoon came to Taiwan. I believe it or not, I was supposed to be in Cathay Pacific. I took China Air. I did everything I could in China Air. You know, crashes every little while. But I did manage to get home, and I'm really glad. But inside here, this little plastic bag, there's something. I cherish this. There's something that's really lovely. You know, Ron and Al and Jeff and everybody have a very dear friend that they'll live and remember forever. His name was Bill Binkelman. And Bill is a very dear friend of Ron's. And one day, we had the pleasure of all going to the lake together. And it was so much fun. And I remember it. I'll always remember it. And when I came home, Joanna said to me, she said, hon, she said, you know, to come up, we should really get some of these pictures. I said, that's a good idea. So I just went and took the whole film out, and I took them down. I had them all 8 by 11 or whatever, so that maybe you can see what it looks like. And I'm going to tell you a little story. It's true. It's true. And, you know, it was an early morning, about 11:30. And you'll see that here in this picture, Bill is standing by the boat, leaning against the boat, very patient man, standing there, and we're getting ready to go fishing. And as you can see, everything's on the truck. It looks quite nice. There's more going to come though as we go along. And Bill is waiting to go fishing. And there's more behind. When Ron studies these pictures later on, I know it's going to be fun. So the next picture, we did get in the car, and you know, I was supposed to keep my camera to myself, but I'm not a good camera picture taker. But in this picture here, I'll kind of just flash it around. Here we see something quite a bit different. They're getting ready to go fishing, and I'm not going to make this up, but maybe there will be just a little bit of trying to say what they're talking about. But this could be how big the fish are where we're going, or something like that. You know, this could be something like that, because you can see there's a lot of expression here, lots of expression. And you notice how Bill is looking with such intensity at this? Then we come to the next picture. Bill made a comment. You'll notice on this picture, right here, I'm sorry, I have to get in a full degree here. Bill, I'll go up in front like this. Bill made a comment. Now, when Bill made the comment, you'll notice on Ron's mouth, he looked at Bill. I think this is just great. It's just, you know, this is really candid. But he looked at Bill like, I don't believe what I'm hearing. You know, it's just like that. As you look at these pictures, like, it's so neat. And it gets better. And then, whoops, excuse me. Now, it's just sort of back and forth. And now, of course, it's a gentle picture, but we're just driving straight ahead, and he's telling Bill the details, and you can see how Bill is looking at him with such intensity. I'll give these to Ron, Dolores, and you can look at them closer to get something. Now we get to the lake. Now, when we get to the lake, there's a lot of tackle that has to go in the boat. Now, doesn't this look like we're opening up the back end of the van, and you see Bill is trying to put it, and Ron is saying, get out of my way, this stuff is going in this boat. You know how the doors flung open? And it just looked, it was just the way it held the rod. You know, it was just like that. It was going to go flying into the boat. It was really cute. I couldn't help it. It was really a neat picture. And then, okay, here's a dandy. Well, Bill is working on some of his things, and you'll notice how Ron is looking at his fishing reel on this picture. Everything has a little detail. Like, what is wrong with this reel? There's something haywire here. And it's just really neat. And the more I looked at these pictures, I just couldn't help but see the story that's behind this. Now, we're getting ready to, I must be too close to this thing or something. But we're on the water, and we're going out. A lot of intense thinking. Just getting started though. Just getting started. The boat's really rolling up through the lake, and as you can see, Bill's looking at the shoreline, and Ron is just getting things rolling. We're just getting going. Now we get to the next picture. Now, there's a little more talk going on. You'll notice how Bill is looking at Ron as they're going along, and Ron is telling him about, you know, where we're going to fish, how we're going to do it, and everything like that. And it's getting really intense. It's just the expressions, you know, on Bill and Ron as they're going fishing. This just is like a true life experience as you're going through the lake. But you notice, if you look at this picture close later on, you'll notice the intensity of it all. Then we get to the next one. Now here, it's really intense. Any people up close can tell. I know, Ron, you're really impressing on Bill something here. This is really a neat scene. This was really a neat scene on this one. In the back, you can't get the full benefit of this, but when you really look these pictures over carefully, you'll see what I mean. Now, here's one here. This one really got me. You're really gritting your teeth. It was something about this. I think Bill said something to you or something. You were talking about something, and I don't know what it was, but Bill how can you do say that or something? You know, it was so different, very, very different. And now here, this is interesting. Bill's rigging up his rod, and you're looking at his rig. It's the way you're looking at it. It's just the way you're looking at it, you know? And there's something really special about this. This is very different. It's like, honest to Pete, Bill, what are you using? I mean, what are you doing, you know? And then, oh, this I thought was crazy. You know, yeah, they had a wonderful fishing day. It's not a lot, but it's just here. This is a quickie. You know what this reminds me of? You know them Snoopy pictures where you see him with his little airplane helmet and his ears are back, and it's very calm, and we're just having a great time, and you're scooting along. This is the Snoopy picture where, look at Bill, look at his smile on his face, and Ron is so peaceful and so neat, and you're just like that. You're just going along the lake like this. It's really a nice scene. Very, very nice. Well, then we got to the end, and there's always a fish in the picture, but this one here, I wasn't doing too. I was snap, 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 and so when I developed the film, I just snapped everything, and so I kept them all, and I tried to figure out how to explain them. This one here, you weren't quite ready. It was a tiring day because I caught you with your eyes shut. I'm sorry. So it was really it was a very difficult day. So I'm really sorry about that. But, you know, I kept the picture in there. And this one here, I don't want to blame the photographer, but it got a little light, so we could be a little faint after everything that took place that day. So I'm not going to take full blame for this. But it was a little overexposed. This one, but I put it in. And now this one is looking a whole lot better. A little more color is coming back in, but I just took them all and put them in for that. And this one here was the best one of all. This one here, and it was a portrait of Ron and Bill, and they were really, to me, both of them are my legend. And there's something really special about Ron. This is his day. By the way, I want to make a little statement that we were taking a picture and we were talking about the birthday, you know. This is something that I thought of, I just mentioned it. You know, from 60 to 65 are the best years. You know, for 50 to 55. I'm in the bad years, because I'm from 55 to 60. But if you go, you can, you know, from 60 to 65, you're either 16, 26, 36, 46, 56. You never hit 65 until you get to that 67. You know, then it's like 76, 86, and you keep going that way. So these are really good years when you're in the first part of the 60s. And very good years. Very, very good years. But I want to share something really special. I want to share something really special that my life, Joanna's life, our life has been really blessed by Ron and Delora, but this is Ron's day and everybody's a part of his life. Please allow me to share with you that he has been a part of the strength of my life back in the early days, around 1982, 83, in the beginning of a tremendous time in Ron's life. And he shared a special part of himself. All the things we've talked about tonight are special as well, but this is special to me. So I want you to know that this was at Camp Fish, but I was in Canada with Ron and Al and a lot of the people and Bill. This was a time that was special for Bill. Here sits Bill right down here on the steps, and I have three pictures here. Here's some of the fellas, some of the speaker that was there, and here's the one here. I had it now, it's a little dark, but still, Ron is right here in front of all the fellas, sharing with them what a very special person means to him. And you know who that is, many of you know, it's Jesus Christ. And I want you to know that if it wasn't for Ron's, excuse me, but I've been to the Orient 17 times in 5 years. During this time, I have seen people in China and Korea find a very special person because of the, what shall I say, the strength and the courage that Ron gave to me to be able to reach into the unknown and to work with people in other parts of the world. I really don't care that much about fishing tackle, I want to tell you. I've been kind of forced into it, sort of. That's a long story. But my greatest joy is to do what has happened in the Orient in the last 4 years. And I do contribute a great deal of this to a faith that Ron has. This is more special to me than anything in the world. I want you to know that. He is an extremely special person to Joanna and I, Doris, and all of you. But Ron is a very special person to me. This is something that happened the very first day we met. It has never died, but it's gotten stronger and stronger and stronger. It'll live on forever. Ron, these are your pictures, and I appreciate it. Thank you very much for everything. Happy birthday.
Bill Binkleman was a very special friend to all of us, really instrumental in starting fishing. Ron and Al, when they lived in Chicago, I was still in Milwaukee, really starting this structure fishing. He never got the credit that was due him. Mary Lindner, how have you survived all these years as the sister-in-law?
Yeah, I've been around Ron for like 22 years now, and I came from a very quiet family, very quiet home, and Al brought me, I think on our first date, to Ron and Dolores' home, and it was like culture shock. I mean, it was so much activity that I went home just tingling, you know. But anyway, I had like 2 years apprenticeship in the family. And Steve, where are you? You'll survive. Am I too close? It's okay. Okay. And I had a lot of exciting experiences over those years. I'm just going to relate a few of them, and not so many of the bad ones. So, one of them I just want to share was Ron really opened up my little tiny world of Stewartville, Minnesota to some, you know, greater, wider scopes of the world. And one of the things was when I didn't really ever get a chance to travel much, but he did take us all on a family vacation to paradise. Right, Nora? To paradise, yes. It's, you know, the book where the road ends. Well, that's where we were. I'm not kidding you. It was like a wagon trail. I mean, the blacktop, then the gravel, then kind of dirt, then just a hint of a path. And we drove and drove and drove. And I think we just followed 371 north until it just ceased. But, and Dolores had little ones, and I had Sean, who was about, what, 3 or 2 or something like that at that time. And we had Granny and Papa. I mean, this is a whole full-blown family trip, two or three cars, you know, the whole thing. And of course, I brought good clothes, you know. I thought, this is really special. Well, we pull out of these dense woods, and I just looked, because you see, the cliff just dropped off, and there was no grass. It was rock. And there was no playground. But Ron, you know, he really tried to encourage me, and I just kind of got lower and lower, and I said, this is terrible. The kids are going to go off the cliff, you know. And, you know, but paradise was fishing paradise, right? So anyway, but that was my first taste of what paradise was, according to Ron's description. And I never let him pick a place out after that. Right? You always say, I'll surprise you. I said, I had one. That was it. And then, of course, it was that very time, too, on that particular trip that we went fishing in many islands, you know, and you could get lost very easily. And we happened to be, where was Ron?
We were with Al.
Yeah, we were with Al.
Al got the women, you know. And so we were fishing with Al out, and the thunderstorm came. Remember that, Dolores? I mean, when you talk about major number storm, I mean, it was huge. And of course, Al doesn't put the rod down until something snaps him, you know. I mean, the lightning was just flicking, and he just said, one more cast, 5 more minutes, one more cast, 5 more minutes. And I don't swim. I don't know how to swim. You know, I've got a life jacket on, I've got everything strapped around me that's going to float. And so it's really getting bad now. I mean, the wind has picked up, the waves are bad, and we're in this little aluminum boat. And Dolores is starting to cry because we don't think we're ever going to make it back. You cried, and I was weeping too. But this is part of his trip, see. So anyway, we made it back, but Al had to go sit in the front of the boat because the thing would flip over. So we opened her up wide, and he says, here, he said, you come back. He's talking to me. Here, you, come back here, and you drive the boat. I had never drove a boat in my life. So he put me on the deal there. I still don't know how to drive a boat, but don't let anybody know. It's really embarrassing. I held it wide open, like he said. You know, I'm obedient. You know, wide open. Yes, sir. I had my head tipped down and my eyes shut. My contact lenses are blown out. And Dolores is really crying by this time. Let's go to an island. And Al says, no, we just go. And he kept, you know, going further in the front of the boat to keep from flipping. And anyway, we're going full bore into this cliff. And he said, shut it off. I said, how do you do that? It's wide open. We kind of like, well, we made it. We made it in real quick. Well, okay, that's kind of Ron and Al. Then he also expanded, you know, I'm an artist, and he expanded my field of art. You know, I used to be limited to a palette, and, you know, the traditional ways. And he taught me, after I left Sean there for a weekend, that you can draw star bellies on your kids. So every time I left Sean, That was Jeff's deal.
Jeff started it.
With magic markers.
Yeah. It doesn't come off. So I come back to pick up Sean, and he'd have all these stars all over. Yeah. It was just part of the deal, you know, I guess. I didn't pay him to babysit, what could I say? And in dining out, I learned, after dining out with him, every food is finger food. And if your napkin gets dirty, you take the tablecloth. So he loosened me up for dining out. So now I can really relax, let my hair down, and just thoroughly enjoy the food, like he said. And he was one. We had the no smoking ban in our house way before it became popular. I was the enforcer. And Ron would come over, and bless his heart, this has been over 20 years. He doesn't smoke inside the house, never has, because my sinuses lock up rod, I can't stand it, I just can't breathe. So whenever he would smoke, he'd have to step outside. I'd chew him out if he tried to do it downstairs with the fan on the little bathroom. He would try to sneak, but I'd catch him. So the poor guy, winter, blowing snow, whatever, you know, if he had to have a cigarette, it was outside run. I mean, he did it voluntarily, I didn't have to tell him. And I finally loosened up on just letting him go do what he wants with my refrigerator, eat whatever he wants. It just wasn't worth the stress. I mean, I stressed out for maybe 10 years, and the last 10 I just said, salivate? Whatever chicken bones were left about the house, I stopped. It's just been an adventure being his sister-in-law, and I'm sure there's a lot of things I've forgotten about, thank heaven. And he taught me to be punctual. He's been working on that for 22 years. Tomorrow's a board meeting, and I know he wants to be there before 8 preferably. And I used to be half an hour late all the time. Now I'm 15, 10, or 5. I mean, I'm working, it takes time. But he's been always so patient. And he used to set times and meetings to adjust for my lateness, right? He said it, yep, he'd tell me to be there the wrong time, you know? So that I'd show up at the right time. But anyway, I just want to say that he's been really a special part of my life. I just admire him so much. I believe he is the most well-rounded. I love you, Al. Well, Al reads too, but you know. But Ron, you know, I know that he is such a well-read man, and there's just no subject that he can't talk to me about. If I ask a question when the boys were in school, I'd call up and I'd say, we didn't have encyclopedias, you know, so Ron was I need some information on this, and you know, I mean, I could write a paper for Sean and Troy then on what he gave me, and I knew it would be accurate. So he's just been a real strength to me. I just really appreciate him, and I love him very much. And he's just been a very special part of my life, and I'm so thankful that I can call him my brother-in-law.
Thank you. Does that mean I can smoke in the basement now?
Don't start a fire at our house.
Back in the early days when we were just starting up the Fishermen, times were a little tough. We didn't have a lot of money, so one time Alan, Ron, and I were going to Milwaukee to do a sports show, and we said, well, we'll stay at my parents' house outside of Milwaukee, and my parents were glad to see us, so they said, we'll take you out to dinner. So my mother was my mother, so they take us to one of the nicest restaurants around Chuck's on Pine Lake there, and my mother had never seen Ron's eating habits. And this was a restaurant that my parents went to all the time, very fine. So Ron says, I'll have the duck a la orange. But if the duck, one piece of rice touches the duck, I'm sending it back. I want the a la orange sauce, but if any a la orange sauce comes out of the cup, if there's any orange sauce on the rice or the duck, it's going back. So it comes, and some of the rice had touched the duck, and Ron says, oh. He said, okay, I'll take it. So he's eating, and he puts his finger in the orange sauce. He's eating like this, and then my mother hits a veal, and Ron is on her plate. Oh, try this orange sauce. Gary Roach.
There's some dandies, ain't there, Al? Would you hand this to Ron Lindner? This is one of the old original ones, and he's got to wear that tonight, okay? That's where we started. The old Miss Put that on there, Ron. I don't know if it'll fit you anymore.
I don't think so.
Rip a seam, anyway. Everybody thinks that Al and Ron are born millionaires, but I was there when we had the old 57 Mopar, and Al had a 62 Chevrolet. And I don't know what Ron had. It usually was broken and didn't run, it wouldn't start. And yes, about the neck crawlers in the station wagon, whew, was that a bad smell. I wouldn't ride, I rode in the boat, I think it was. It was bad, night crawlers. 500 of them crawling all through the carpet. It was unreal. Yeah, and Ron Christopherson, yeah, that was a really good dog trick. I showed the old black-headed Rod Romine too. We had everybody over there, and I went up, actually what happened, I had to go up to get the hamburgers. You know, I was a little guy in the totem pole, so go get the hamburgers. So up this big bank at Elma I went, and I went to this hamburger joint. It was a bar, a beer joint and stuff, so I ordered a whole bunch of big hamburgers, and this gal was outside doing a little dog trick, you know. And she said, roll over and go get this and go get that, and I got that down pat, and I said, man, that's really neat, you know. And when we got to the bar that night, of course, she told me the dog was an alcoholic, you know, he'd do anything for a beer, you know. And that's how I got the dog to do all the tricks. I put a little beer in a cup, and that thing would go get bones, roll over, sit up, anything like that. Kind of like the old days, you know. Almost anything for a beer. I didn't mention Zerna. But anyway, I grew up with these guys. I think it's been 27 years, you know, I've known them. And man, these guys has really been, I mean, a total lot of work for me, I'll tell you that. It's been a disaster. My life is all I've done is fished and run all over. I'm a fishing bum. My wife raised a family like Dolores raised her family. We never did anything but fish, right? I would love to have your job. How many times you've heard that, Ron, huh? And I can remember we didn't have anything. We had 2 bits in our pocket. We had to pool all our money for gas. And I got the old Dodge pickup then. I mean, I was living. I still had my 315 Lund. Ron had the X15 315, and you're right, it did not float. It had about that much gun. I had to put everything in it. He had tackle boxes built, you know, and he had like a 25-horse Johnson then. Remember? We were fishing on South Long Lake, and it was so cold. We were fishing bass. It was so cold. I think Al and I were out there filming, and we were in a drier boat, and everything was coming over the back. And of course, I kept freezing and freezing and freezing. Pretty soon Ron was hollering, help, you know, it was going down. In those days they had no flotation, so we got in the shore and got the motor thawed out, knocked the ice off it. I remember another trip too in early 70s when we went to Lake Erie. Ron came over and he fished a tournament with us guys, Bob Chase and I, Jim Frawfish and all those guys over there. And Ron, of course, he has to get right up on top and he has to try everything. He used to fish, him and I fished together a lot in the old days when he designed the old dingo jig and, you know, the spin rig and stuff like that. And we'd always kind of work back and forth, because I loved doing, you know, shaving lead like that. But he had every detail. And every time he made a bait, he had a brush puppy. You talk about lures. I mean, a weed guard type jig before anybody ever thought of. I got a whole card at home. I want to bring you one so you put it on your wall. And I remember those days. Then I remember that trip over to Erie, because all the charter captains, they got to get up in front. The guy that does the best casting, he gets way up on the bow. And you got a little place you got to crawl around the cabin to get to that. See, well, Ron, he got up there and he got on there, and the waves were really bouncing pretty good like that. We had all the rods in one corner over here, you know. Everybody, you know, didn't have a place for rods. So he hit a wave. He was leaning over to get a rod. He hit a wave, and he went over top of the windshield, and he went down in that corner, and he just broke rods. It was all over. And Frawfish didn't say a word. He looked up, he said, boy, that was a 10, he said, for the fall of recovery is about a 3, he said. But we caught fish, and he was using slip bombers, first time ever in Lake Erie. He was doing all kinds. We're in a tournament, see, we know what catches fish out there, but not Ron. He's tangled, we're kind of casts. He's got 2 or 3 slip bombers floating around, so we're trying to make casts and stuff like that. He did catch 1 fish on a shiner out there. We finally got him back. Another little tournament that we did over at Dead Lake. Remember that, Ron?
We split money that time, a couple of thousand apiece, if I recall.
Yeah. So Ron had trouble with the boat, you know, a little bit of trouble. Once in a while he has trouble, and he had trouble with the troll motor. So you're supposed to wear your life jackets, and he's up in the bow of this old 315 or whatever. I think it was a pro angler then, but he was up in the bow, and he had his troll motor over, and he had his life jacket on. And Dead Lake is a good name for that lake, I thought, you know. But I wasn't doing too good. Jimmy, I think he won it that year. Well, Jimmy, he's only about 14 years old then. You know, he kicked our butt, I'll tell you that. But anyway, so the troll motor happens to break on the front of this thing, and it falls off into a deep hole. You know, a bunch of weeds and stuff. Hanson, you'll love this. So Ron says, I gotta save the troll motor. So he dives in after the troll motor. But he forgets to take the life jacket off. So he bounces back up like a cork. He didn't do that once, he did it again. Remember that, Al? I mean, that was beautiful. I think that's when you guys left Lindy Little Joe and went kinging. Remember that? I remember that. That was a great day. Lake Erie fishing, oh, that was great. Galva, Wisconsin. Well, Ron, that was pretty true about that ice floe. What happened was when I went to get the hamburgers, you know, in the morning, Al and I got up a little earlier than Ron. You know, 11 o'clock, he likes to get a little late, you know, but so we forgot to get gas, see? In the gas station, it was a little early, so we takes the 5-gallon can out of Ron's boat. See, in our boat, Carol says he'll never miss it. Well, when they opened the gates and all this ice came floating down the river, it pushed Ron into the island, and he was screaming. He was the director that day. Remember, we had to go get gas. He had said some pretty bad words, you know. Who did that to me? You know, who stole my gas? You know? It was fun. I was down to the AFMA show, you know, looking at all the tackle and all the stuff. And there wasn't really much new, you know. And this guy here, it's been really fun for 27 years. He has been a full supporter of mine, like his brother, like all the guys in the in-fishermen. They have really, really helped me. But I had one story I heard another bass fisherman tell, and it was Roland Martin. I don't remember what tournament it was, you know, but Ron was going to show this guy, and it was at the Minn Kota booth, was show this guy how to load a boat without even getting out of the boat, without even running the big motor. He says, I got it made. He said, back the thing in. I don't even know who the guy is. You can relate to this, Ron, but so Ron gets this troll motor going, and he aims at the trailer. Roland telling the story. I mean, everybody at the Ethma show was standing around after Roland got going. He said, you just watch how I'm going to load this thing without even starting the engine. He said, I got a trick I want to show you. And he had a crowd. Evidently, he had a nice crowd. So he's running this thing on 24 volt or 36 wide open, and he's right to the trailer. He goes to lift the troll motor up like that, and the rope breaks. You know what happened to the troll motor? Smuck. Did that happen? Is that the truth? That's the truth. That's the truth. But anyway, there's other people here. I want to thank you, Ron, for your support and your whole family and everybody. And you've helped me a lot, I'm telling you, Tom. And I will be there to sweep out the in-fishermen when I get my gold watch.
You won a tournament. Let's see, you keep
I got one more year. Yeah, I got one more year.
You just won one. If you didn't win one, it was going to be this year.
Yeah.
But you dodged the bullet again for another year. Gary just won the tournament up at Manaki. So.
Good night. And I'll be up there by that. Happy birthday, guys.
As soon as he's all done, he's coming over and we're giving him the broom. He's going to be the in-fisherman sweeper boy.
Ron, one thing too. I know you haven't eaten, so I got your lunch here.
There's something about Ron and chicken bones. A couple years ago, James and I, he used to be Jinx, and then he was Jimmy, and now he's James, but Jinx and I and Ron and maybe Daniel went, early season, we were either going to go to opening day at Wisconsin, or they said, let's go up to Lake of the Woods and let's fish lake trout. So we go up there, we get a nice motel, early morning, alarm goes up, Ron says, I'm sleeping in. So Jinx and I go out and we're fishing, and we're just waiting. You know, we had this rendezvous point we're going to meet Ron and Daniel, and they never show up, so we fish the entire day, go back to the motel, and we say, Ron, where were you? And he says, I couldn't get the boat off the trailer, because we left my boat, and I had a strap over the boat. So Ron and he didn't know how to take straps off, so he'd back the boat in, my trailer would float underneath the boat, then he'd go in, and there was so much, there's 3,000 pounds of pressure on the strap, he couldn't loosen it. He says, I was thinking of unhooking the trailer, and coming out and finding you, to ask you how to get the strap off. True story. And then he pulled out, he backed the boat in again, and he tried to get this strap off. We saved the best for last. Al Lindner.
I'm not going to sit in one spot. Ronald's stories are, I mean, you could go on and on and on. I've heard people seriously say that we should write a book on Ronald's stories, that the industry would buy it, it would sell. And we were talking about book titles today. But I got to give you a typical afternoon on the water with Ronald. Typical afternoon in Ronald's life on the water, a day of fishing. And many guys in here will relate to this. Some years ago, a friend of mine, Ted Capra, many of you know him, there was a tournament up on whitefish. And he gives me a call, and he says, Al, I don't know whitefish. Can you take me out for a little while and show me some of the spots on a lake? The tournament is next weekend. And I said, yeah, after church, meet me at my house. This was on a Saturday. He called me and says, after church, meet me at the house at about 12 o'clock, and we'll go up to whitefish. He says, okay, I'll be up there. So church is over. I drive home real quick. And here Ted is there. Now I'm at church. We finished church, and Ron comes up to me. He says, "You want to go fishing this afternoon?" And I says, "Well, Teddy's coming up, and I'm going to take him out on whitefish to show him some spots." And he says, "Oh, great! I'll go with you." So I think, okay. And there's room in the boat. There'll be three of us. That's no problem. So I drive to our house. I go over there, and lo and behold, Ted brings his son with him, Tony, who he said, I didn't know Tony was going to be there. Now there's four of us. So he says, well, that's no big deal. Ron says, why don't you go in the boat with Ted? Now, I know whitefish real well, too. I'll take Tony in your boat. Okay. I said, by the way, I don't have no rods or reels or any equipment with me. So the first thought that goes through my mind, true story, first thought when he says, I have no rods or reels or equipment, first thought that went through my mind, okay, it's 12 o'clock in the afternoon, we'll fish till 7 or 8. He'll break one rod. I can live with that, so I'm not going to give him a regular. He'll break one. I'm thinking of this scenario that comes through. More than likely, he'll pick up the crankbait box, because I know he likes to fish crankbaits on whitefish. He'll dump them, they'll be stuck all over the boat. I can clean them and pick up the rest of the stuff. And more than likely, the jig box will go over, but he'll throw all of those in a bottom and fold it back up and stay there. Okay, well, it is what it is, so we'll go out there anyway. So he hooks the boat up, takes my boat, and I jump in with Ted. We get up to whitefish across lake, and me and Ted put in the boat first. And it was, okay, we're gonna go down to such and such a spot, we're gonna fish these points and we'll meet you right over there. Now, he's right behind us. I said, okay. So we float our boat off, I park, I jump in the boat with Ted, and we take off across the lake. I figure he's 5 minutes behind us. We go to the first spot and I fish it. Takes 10 minutes around. No Ronald. Or Tony, we don't see nobody. Go to another spot, it's about an hour. And we don't see him. You know, and he was right behind us, floating the boat off. And so we fished like 4 spots, and all of a sudden I look through the narrows and I see this boat coming. And I can tell it's my boat, and I stop and I look, and something doesn't quite look right. And it's getting closer, and I'm sitting, we're working this weed line, and I keep looking at the boat and looking at it, and when I can finally see the boat coming up to me, the whole front end, you can see where this other boat rammed into the front. The back is lifted up. The seat is out the whole front deck and casting platform. You can see where the boat got rammed into my boat. Brand new boat. Brand new boat. And Tony Capra is still green and numb. I mean, he's almost, he's numb. He's as green as his jacket. I mean, the guy is still in shock. And I'm looking, he pulls right up alongside of us, and the first things he said to me is, how many fish did you catch, and did you fish these other 2 spots? It's like, this is normal for anybody, and it's just the way I look. I mean, you talk about tunnel vision. Nothing about the boat. Oh, incidentally, I had some problems with your boat. It wasn't even a consideration. What? Doesn't this happen to everybody anytime? What are you so concerned about? By the way, he did, a skier hit him. A water skier hit him. He can tell you that story. Brand new boat, but that's a true story. Capra will never forget that. Every time I see him, he just roars. He laughs until his tears are pouring down his eyes. But we've had an opportunity over the years to work together on many, many, many projects. Most of them a lot of fun, some of them very challenging. Through those years, I've learned Ronald's heart. I think other than his wife Dolores, I know him better than anybody here, inclusive of his children, with the exception of his wife. And his heart is a big heart, a caring heart and a loving heart. And they're more than a lot of people realize, because he doesn't show that in his mannerisms. Okay? And, not only are you my brother, you're absolutely my best friend, who I love, trust, and respect. Bless you, and wish you many, many more happy birthdays. Yeah.
So God created Ron in his own image. In the image of God, he created him. And God gave Ron dominion over the fish of the sea and the birds of the air. And Ron made him fishermen. Ron is a man of high virtue, a good father, a faithful husband, and a wise and prudent businessman, a mighty servant of God. I am deeply indebted to the trust that Ron has given me, and I am deeply honored to call him my friend. Thank you, Ron.
emotion, I used to tell Dawn, I says, emotion is something that I had to put away many, many years ago. I says, I can't show any. And she says, why not? And I says, because it doesn't seem right. But my heart is just, I want to thank everybody. I don't, Dolores, I did not have an inkling. Not an inkling. When Jeff opened that door, that is the first hint I had of anything. I mean, I am beyond words. So, and I thank and appreciate everybody for coming. Thank you, thank you. Have a good time and whatever else we're supposed to do.
Oh, that was such a good job.
I guess so, Jeff.
That was great.
Great job. Very good.
Great job, Jeff.
Oh, that was
Oh, the end. What Al said. And all that, I'm just like,
Cry when he walked in and I saw his face. It was just like, he was so
Before I left it in my
yeah, Jory.